Not your average tabletop. Woohoo!
Welcome to Not Your Average Tabletop. I'm Zach.
And I'm Mac.
And today we're doing our chippy review of Terraforming Mars.
Ta-da!
Yes, it is quite the game.
And is it just Terraforming Mars, or is it Terraforming Mars plus the Prelude expansion?
I sort of included some in some areas and sort of included some things and not some other things in other areas.
It's as clear as the mud on Mars.
Well, I mean, to be fair, I've probably played more games of this without Prelude than with Prelude.
Okay.
And I would say that brings it to another level, but I think without it, I still feel pretty much set on these. Yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah, we'll get into our C in Chippy with core mechanisms. What do you rate it, Maggie?
Oh boy, he's gonna put me on the spot first, huh?
I'm gonna put you on the spot.
I gave it an 8. Because without Prelude at the beginning, I feel like it's like a slow start, and the draft and the core helps you, like, especially for me who has not played it very much, as you'll see in our next rating, like, it gives you kind of focus in the game and kind of helps you figure out where you're supposed to be. I love card drafting. I love the tableau building. I love all of that. I just say it took me quite a while to really figure out how it all kind of played together, because you have this player board in front of you that has cubes on it that also count as money, and you're supposed to slide the cubes in some spaces at certain points, and so many cubes get you this, and you're not really sure why, and that goes on the board, but you could also buy that if you had enough money. And so there's just things, and this raises the temperature, but this increases the oxygen, and like you also are like going around this track board and like trying to, that somehow influences your money and stuff like that. So they're just like, it's really well interconnected once you get the hang of it, but it took a little while to get the hang of it. And so I would say it's great. I love the drafting. If you didn't draft, that would suck. But I just think there's a couple of things that scoring and stuff like that just feel a little chunky. Like they're hard to understand, and unless you're going to play this game like a lot, it's not going to be one you can just pick off the shelf and be like, everything flows so smoothly, I've got nothing to complain about. So that's not me. We don't play this game every day or every week or every month, unfortunately for Zach, as you'll find out as we do this trivia. But I think it's like a really solid game, and I do really like it and enjoy the mechanisms in it. There's just a couple of things that are hard for me to do once we haven't played it in a while.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm coming in with a 9.5. I think the tableau building is kind of the first game I played that had kind of a tableau of every card being different and kind of all doing different things. A lot more games have kind of done that now, but I think this was the first one I played that kind of had that, and you have tons of cards out. And
it's sickening. I have like 10 cards in my tableau, and somehow Zach has like 17. He's got the whole corner of the table built out in his tableau.
It's way more than that. I don't think we played this recently enough.
It's way more than that. It is way more than that.
It is way more, I think. You have more than 10, too.
It's disgusting. It's like the whole corner of the table, and I'm sitting over here with like 4 cards. Okay, it's not that few, but it's like, comparison-wise, it's terrible.
No. But yeah,
You're
I
a
think,
master.
Yeah. Now you threw me off. You're
I'm
flabbergasted me.
I'm sorry.
But yes, I really like that, and I think everything comes together really well in the game. I would just say the only thing that knocks it for me just a little bit is sometimes, if you don't play with the drafting variant, then I think that's kind of necessary in this game, in my opinion. But if you don't, then you could kind of get bad cards, and in certain circumstances, you might just have cards that you're unable to play anymore. Mm-hmm. Which, I mean, I don't think it's that big of a deal, but
turn them in for money.
That's true. You could maybe turn them in for money, or you just don't buy them potentially too. But yeah, I really like the way everything in this game comes together, and I really like how the scoring and everything in this one works. The first time I played this one, I was just amazed at how well it all went together, and I felt like even though it felt like a lot going on, I still had a pretty good understanding of it after the first game.
Yeah. Your mind's pretty oriented to something like this, so that doesn't surprise me that I struggled with it. But I only have, so our next letter is H for history, so how many times we played it. And so it took me a while to play this one. Like, I think I let you play it with, like, my brother and sister-in-law, like, 2 or 3 times where I didn't come to the table.
I think you played it right away.
No,
You
because
did.
you and Abby and Zach and Carson played it, and I sat on the couch and did
I think
something
that was
else.
after you'd already played it once. So.
Oh, okay.
But, yeah, it might have been. How many did you play? 6?
I said 7 because I
6, 7.
think, we played it, and then we played it here and there with them, and then we played it at Vegas, and I won for the first time ever. And then I think since we played it a few more times, and it's kind of grown on me, so I have like 7, I think.
Yeah, and in this one, we maxed out at 10. I've got at least 10 plays of this, probably quite a few more. I've played this quite a few more times than you have.
You have.
I've also played it on the app as well, so in
My
person
gosh.
on the app. Probably the app as many times as I've played it in person, would be my guess.
My gosh.
Then we get to our first I in investment, and this is kind of an investment in time and also investment in gameplay if it feels kind of a little bit different from game to game or if it kind of feels blah after a few games. And I feel like even after playing it that many times, I still love coming back to it. And I wouldn't say it's necessarily like, oh, now I can still try different things every time. You can try slightly different things, but I think the knowledge of what cards are actually in there just adds another level to the game, knowing like, if I can just get that card to come through for me, then I can do this or that or whatnot. And actually knowing that just brings that extra level of depth, I think. So I'm coming in at a 10. I really enjoy it. The only thing is it could potentially go a little long, but I think overall I don't mind. This is one that I'm willing to sit down and play for 3 hours if needed.
Yeah, and you did play for like 3 or 4 hours once, didn't you? I gave it an 8 for investment. I feel like it is super replayable for me still because I haven't played it a million times on the app and in person.
A million. I have not played it quite a million times.
Quite a million, okay.
I don't know if I've even played it 100.
But I feel like it has some good replayability. I feel like the setup isn't terrible. The cleanup isn't bad. It is a longer game, so I do have to be in the mood to play it, especially if you're playing it at a higher player count. That can definitely take some time. I'm definitely a fan of quick, snappy turns. So for me, I know what I'm doing on my turn, and I'm going, like, pretty much. But sometimes, and others who are much better at this game than me will definitely need a minute to assess, what they're going to do on their turn. Sometimes.
I would say this one is one that even though things can change from one turn to the next, typically it's not enough that you should probably be planning your next turns if it is a higher player count, while the other players are playing. And typically they won't mess up those plans. Not always, but most of the time.
Yeah.
But
Agreed. Agreed.
So anything more for investment? No.
I don't think so.
Okay.
You kind of covered it.
And then presentation. So this is one that I think Terraforming Mars gets slapped for quite often. So some caveats here. I kind of included the big box, and we got the upgraded pieces.
No!
So I gave it an 8. It's still, I don't think it's perfect. And yeah, the main stuff I would say isn't the greatest, but at the same time, I don't think it's as bad as people say. I think it's just such a great game that it makes it. I think the worst part about the original, and we still don't have an upgraded piece to this, but the player boards.
Yeah.
That's by far the worst part.
Worst.
I think if they had like double layered boards for that, I think if they would have just had that, I think people would be fine with the rest of it, because I don't think it's like awful.
Yeah.
Awful. As awful as people make it sound. I think that is the biggest thing.
Yeah. I agree.
For me.
I gave it a 7, so just a little bit below you, but I didn't include the big box stuff. And I think to your point, like, it's so true. Because it's such a loved game, people just want it to be so luxe because they play it so often, because it's so cool, you know. And so I feel like if it wasn't such a loved game, it probably wouldn't get any type of feedback for it. But because it's so loved, like, you can get probably tons of stuff on, like, Etsy and other places that have, like, very specific things for upgrading. And then they obviously did the big box to try and assuage some of that. But I just think the player boards are rough, and I don't particularly love the cards. Like, there's, like, some illustrated work, there's some, like, real art, like, photograph type stuff, and then, I don't know, the icons make sense, but it took me a long time to understand, like, because there's so many, because you only have so many on your player board, but then there's, like, additional ones on the cards, and it was like, how does this feed into, why does the black star make sense with this black whatever the thing is on the board, or the house and the tool? Like, I'm like, why are these together and not together? Like, it didn't make sense to me. So I would just say, probably after getting the big box and stuff, probably leads me to believe that it's the base could use some upgrading. But when you're building a game and you don't know if it's going to take off, and it took off, I think they probably just made it affordable, and that's not a bad thing either. So
Yeah, that's true. I think if I wasn't doing the big box, I'd probably give it a 6.5 or 7, and some of the upgraded stuff. But I think most of that comes just from the player boards. To me, I'm fine with the card artwork. It's not the greatest, but it's not like horrible card artwork, I would say.
yeah,
And then I don't think anything else is overly bad.
no.
So. Yeah,
Just,
the player boards are the worst thing.
Yeah,
if you upgrade one thing in it,
if I could
it's probably what
combine
you
the
should.
player boards with the wood player boards that my brother has, that would be the best. That'd be my favorite.
I would agree. Might have to get some of those. But then we get into preference. What do you got for preference for our second P in Chippy?
I put it at a 6, because he doesn't believe me.
I believe you put it at a 6.
But it's not high enough.
It just hurts me.
It's more than half.
That's why she gave it a 6, so she could say that. It's more than half.
Yeah. Well, okay, so it's a longer game, and that's really it. Like, it just takes so long to play it and stuff that you have to be in the right mood for it, I feel like. Otherwise, like, the drafting and stuff really gets me to the table. Trying to get better at it still gets me to the table, you know, all of those things. I would just say, you know, when you have a collection like ours and you only have so much time to play games, I would just say Terraforming Mars probably isn't, like, my first choice, especially if we played it recently.
Yeah, that's fair. I give it a 10. I'm willing to play this whenever.
Day, night, 24/7, huh?
And I'll do it at all the player counts. Like I said, this is when I'll play with a longer game, too. So I'll do 2, 3, 4, 5. I think it goes to 5. I think we've played a couple 5-player games.
Yeah.
I don't really mind. I don't notice the time. It doesn't feel overly long to me. There are times, like you said, if any players aren't planning their turns ahead, that can get a little can make it feel like it's going long then. But as long as you're kind of ready on your turn, I'm definitely good with that. So yeah, I'm ready to play this whenever. Especially right now. Let's take it out.
He's like talking about.
There's actually nothing in here.
There's nothing in it. Yeah, it's all in the big box.
But yeah, so then we get to It Factor, and I gave this one another 10.
Okay.
I think it was like Ticket to Ride and Catan were kind of like the first games that introduced me to the hobby. I think this was like the first like big feeling game that I ever played. So I think it just has that special place where it felt big, and it hasn't lost like what I really liked about it in that first play. And I've also competed in the World Series of Board Gaming, and this is one of the games that I played, so it's always going to have that space as well. So it just kind of got that special it factor to me.
Sure.
But if I was going based on the player boards, that would be a 0. Because those are not it factor worthy.
Like, the artwork's good, but like it's not good for what you're doing. So I gave it a 6 for it factor. I mean, it's hard because it's kind of like what makes Terraforming Mars. And it kind of sounds contradictory because it's like, I love like the whole, I don't even have a word for it.
When you
It's
said
like,
contradictory, I thought you were going to say the down-to-earth factor.
no. Lols. No, just like how well-rounded it is, like to draft, and that can affect the things on the board in front of you, like that you have your own board, like all of it works together so well once you get it going. And so I think for me, like Eurogamey, like it's so solid in that like it feels so well-rounded. Like there's never a time when I feel like something doesn't super work well, or that there aren't other options to do, you know. So I feel like that is the best part about it. I just think it's long and thinky sometimes, so I have to be in the right mood for it. So I think that other than, you know, it's just the well-roundedness of it, especially with Prelude. So
that is a good expansion. And I don't know that I think I've played with some of the other ones, but only like once. I don't really know them too well.
Yeah. Why ruin a good thing?
Exactly. But then, so that gives us, based on the weightedness of all those scores, that gives me a 9.0
Wow.
For Terraforming Mars, which I feel like it should be even higher because it's definitely one of my favorite games of all time. It's in my top 10, if not my top 5, so I really, really love Terraforming Mars.
You do.
So
He really does.
It's one of my
I'm
favorites.
surprised it took us so long to get the big box expansion, and now we're just gonna have to like get all the Lux upgrades.
You're going to have to get the player boards.
Mine put me at a 6.8, which is like, I was like, how? All of my numbers are
that
like
is
8
why.
and 7.
That is why we haven't gotten all that stuff.
I like it though. It's
know.
just I have to be in the right mood for it. There are some games that you just have to be in the right mood to play.
That is true. It is one that it does demand your attention,
Yeah.
and takes your time. So it is one that you have to be in the mood to play.
Someone who's played it tens of times, and you know you're like, I'm a Verbenreich girl, right? Like to come sit at the table for a 3-hour strategy game is not always on my list of things to do. But I will say, if I'm gonna come to a table for a strategy game, this game's on the list of ones I'd come for.
I think I have to make sure Pepper brings Terraforming Mars Ares Expedition so you can try that one, because I'd be interested to know, because you recently, I don't remember what game it was we played, but you said that you liked that mechanism. It was a Great Wall, which was you like pick an action and then you get a benefit and then everyone else gets one, like a lesser benefit, and that has that in it. So I'd be interested to know, because it still has a lot of the stuff of Terraforming Mars, but it has that. So I might have you try that one out.
Fancy.
But that was our thoughts on that game. It's definitely depends on the gamer as to whether or not it would be one for you. But it is a lot going on, so I would know that going in. But I think it is doable. I think there have been games released since this, and probably before that too, but that are a lot more.
Yeah.
Like, I would think you'd even say probably some of the games in our collection are a lot more than this.
Yeah.
And this already feels big.
Yeah. And I think that's why I prefer it more than others, because like I said, for the it factor, like it's so well-rounded, whereas some of those other big games, like it doesn't come together so neatly as Terraforming Mars.
But
I'm looking at you, all these other games on the shelf.
Wow.
I was like, I should call one out, but I'm not going to call one out.
You better not. But yeah, otherwise, we should have an unboxing video of this, and I think the big box coming out as well, so you can check those out if you're interested in those. But we hope to see you on the next video, and as always, don't forget to keep on nibbling on our content.